Hello everyone, hope you are doing good and welcome back to my channel. Today we are at problem of the day 23 of the Geeks for Geeks December month. We have easy question in front of us. It's count more than n by k occurrences. So if you have been following my video, I guess by now you would have achieved a level where you can solve this kind of questions. It's basically very simple and kind of easy question. There are many ways to do it, and the the expectations which they have mentioned here can be easily met. So I hope you would have already solved this. If so, great. But if you are not able to solve it, let's see what we can do to solve it. And even if you have solved it previously, it may be beneficial for you to see my approach, at the way which I have coded it, and the kind of data structure which I am using, which is basically the dictionary or the mapping data structure. Let's see how I've done it. Right. So given an array of size and an element k. So we are given three inputs here. First is the array, then its size which is n, and then another integer called k. Okay, we have written the another. Okay, the output will be a single integer. Okay, so what they are saying is the task is to find the count of elements in the array that appear more than n by k times. So n by k is a number because n and k are given to us, so we can calculate what is n by k. They are saying that your task is to find the count of elements in the array that appear more than n by k times. I hope you have understood the question what it is. For example, in this case, n by k, if you see for this example one, if you do, n by k will come out to be 2. So whichever elements are present more than 2 times. So if you just go to this array, you will get to know that this element 2, right? It is present. For example, this element 2 is present for 3 times, right? So definitely it will contribute to the answer. Then if you talk about the element 3, again it is present for 3 times, which is again greater than 2. So again it will contribute for the answer. The element 1 is present for 2 times, which is not greater than n by k, by the way. See, it is clearly mentioned more than n by k, not equal to, right? So that will not come. So there are only two elements which are present more than n by k times in this array. Okay, so you can see the explanation as well. In the given array, 3 and 2 are the only elements that appear more than n by k times. So yeah, often you can go through this array again. Remember one thing, they have not mentioned what, if, the n by k is a division, right? The answer may come in decimals. They have not explicitly specified if we should take the floor function or the ceiling function. But if you get this kind of questions in a coding interview, your first task should be to get all the clarifications needed, and one of the clarification will be whether we'll have to take the ceiling or the floor, to decide. For example, if we'll have put a greater than condition, right, in the if statement, so we'll have to use n by k inside a floor condition or a ceiling condition. All those things you should be asking. They have not explicitly mentioned here, and we also won't be using anything as such, but it's always better to ask them, right? And yeah, that was all. And you can see n can reach what, n power 5. So yeah, O of n approach will be the most appropriate approach for this kind of space complexity and time complexity. So let us see what we can do. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to use a dictionary data structure. In Python, it's called a dictionary. In general, if you want to understand what it is, it's called a map data structure. What a map, basically, it will map one thing with another, which is what we call it is like it map key with a value. Okay. So what is key in this case? What I'm going to do is I am going to take distinct numbers as these keys, and their values will be their frequencies. Basically, the frequency of their occurrence in the array. That's what it is. So, for example, if you see in this particular example, the number 2 appear for 3 times. So 2 will be a key and the number 3 will be a value. This was one example. Okay. Similarly, if you talk about number 1 will be a key and its frequency is 2, so its value will be 2. That's what it is. So you just see my example to understand how it is used. If you are a fresher, if you don't know this, if you already know this, then yeah, it's good. So what I will do is I will simply go through each element of the array. Okay. So I will just check, if it is already part of the array. Okay. If it is not so, I will initialize it with 1. If it is already there, I will increment it by 1. Okay. As simple as that. So after we come out of this loop, we will have frequency of each of the elements present in that. Okay. Then I am declaring answer variable. Then I am, doing n by k and storing it in value. Remember, I am also not using any floor or ceiling function, as I already mentioned, because we are have to compare the values. I'm not using it, but remember, it's always better. See, for example, we are comparing a integer with a decimal, right? And if you want precise results, see, this is always, see, it comes to like how much clarity you want in your question or in your answer. That's what it is. Explicitly it should be mentioned, but if it is not mentioned in a coding interview, definitely these points will strike the attention of the interviewer. If you're asking these particular things, okay, you should definitely ask whether you want me to take the floor of it or ceiling of it, or if it is not at all needed. In this case, if it is not needed, you should get it from their mouth. Only then you should be, you should not assume it. That's what it is. You should get it from their mouth. Only then you should be like clear, okay, I'm not going to use it. As simple as that. Then I'm going through. I hope you would have understood what we are doing here. Here we are simply storing the element and its frequencies. Okay, as simple as that. Then comes another part. Whatever you have stored in the dictionary A, we are going through each of that. I am calling it I and J. Each of this. What is I? Basically, I is the key. What is J? J is the value. That means J is going to be the frequency of the ith element. Okay. For example, as I mentioned in this example, you can see one is appearing for 2 times. Okay. So how it will be? So I will be 1 in this case, and what is J? J is going to be 2. J will be the frequency of the ith value. Okay, ith key. So I'm just checking if j is greater than value. What is value, by the way? Value is the n by k. Okay. So if j is greater than value, I am incrementing answer by 1. Okay. Answer was initialized with 0 initially, and I am incrementing by 1 whenever I'm finding this true. Okay. At last, once I come out of this for loop, I am returning the answer. And if I can run and show you, you can clearly see it is clearing the test cases. Yeah. So yeah, fine, that was all. And if you talk about the time complexity, as you can see here, we are using only one for loop. And in the second for loop, see how many items can be there in A, first of all. Let us say in the worst case, all the elements in A can be distinct, right? In that case, okay, let me explicitly mention it. Because see, when you talk about dictionary, things will slightly change. Okay, let's just talk about the time complexity and the space complexity explicitly. There are certain assumptions we'll have to make. um, or we can say, like, we have to classify whether we are talking about the worst case or the best case complexities. Okay, so first let us talk about the space complexity. So as you can see, these are like simple variables. These are not dependent on n and something like that. Okay, they're not dependent on n, so they won't become big or small with n. But this is the only variable which depend on n. Okay, in the worst case, what will happen? All the values in the array will become distinct. Okay, so there will be n keys and n values in that case. Okay, n keys and n values. So in that case, in the worst case, what will be the space complexity? Space complexity will be O of n. Okay, remember, this is the worst case space complexity, not the ideal case. Okay, worst case. Right, now talk of the time complexity. As I mentioned, this is going to take O of n because we are going to each element of it. Then this depends on how many elements we have in the A. Okay, that is the dictionary which we are using. Now, as I mentioned, if you talk about the worst case, all the elements present in the array are going to be distinct. In this case, this is also going to be O of n only. Okay, this also is going to be O of n. So again, this was the worst case. See why I'm talking about a case here, because see, here the this particular loop is dependent on how many values are there in the dictionary. Okay, so how many values are there is going to be dependent on how many repetitions are happening there in the given array. Okay, so that's why I'm taking the worst case. All the elements can become distinct. Then that is the, in that case, maximum space will be used, because for each of them there will be a key in the dictionary and a value in the dictionary. Okay, that was it. And if you see the expected ones, they are also expecting the same. Okay, so yeah, and that was it. And if you want, I can give you the solution, and I'm definitely assuming that you would have already coded that. See, there are many approaches to do it, and there are slightly slightly lengthy approaches also to do it. You may not be using this data structures, but still you will be able to do it. But I felt like if you use this structure, the solution becomes a bit simple to even write and even to explain to others, right? That's what it is. So yeah, and that was all for today. Hope to see you tomorrow. Thanks a lot.